Hey, what's up, guys? Just finishing this mini series for the Nutrition 101 sort of video series. It's been a while, but I took a month off everything, and yeah, but I'm back. Today I'm going to talk about the best diet because a lot of people think they have the best diet for everyone, and I'm going to share my opinion on it, and then I'm going to give some resources as to why I look at it the way I do. Okay? Well, let's get started then. And if I get a little bit spacey, it's because I'm fasting and I can't really think right now. But I just needed to get this video done so I can move on to other things. Okay. So basically, you got a spectrum of diets, and on either side, you got an extreme. Pretty much just the same as with everything. And I love talking about this because I feel like I can bust some of the myths and make people a bit uncomfortable. I'm gonna make people angry with this video most likely, but whatever. So let's say this end of the spectrum would be and each end is like dogmatic. So they're kind of like religions. They push it on everyone and they think theirs is right because it's scientifically backed, etc., etc., etc. On this end, let's put your ketogenic diet. If you don't know what ketogenic is, basically your body runs off ketones, which is off fatty foods. So the ketogenic diet people, they eat like 90% fat and protein, mainly from animal sources, 10% vegetables, no like little carbs at all. Their carbs come from vegetables. And then you go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, you got the other extreme, and I justify this extreme by being, so the very end of it would be the 80-10-10 high carb, low fat, raw, vegan diet. So those are the two ends of the spectrum, and then you got any derivation in between the two. And I think there's over like 4,500 books on diet in the world, probably more actually. And they all think that everyone should follow their diet to the T. And you go to any channel really, you got your ketogenic channels on YouTube, you got your paleo channels on YouTube, you got your vegan channels on YouTube, vegetarian, bodybuilder, which is mainly protein. They think you need 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, which is a bit of bullshit, to be honest. That's just meant to sell supplements. But it gets really hard for people, and I'm talking mainly health. They all think their diet's going to promote health and wellness, and when you have health and wellness, you're more likely to be able to build muscle and strength. Anyway, so with all the information, everyone thinking they've got the right idea, the ketogenic diet's like, nah, that's shit. And then the high carb, low fat vegans are like, oh no, those guys are idiots. They're causing cancer, all sorts of shit. It can be hard to decide which diet you're on, or which diet is the right diet to pick. And I've got the answer for you, but you're not going to like it. They're all correct. Every single one of them. Every single one of them is correct. Now, that might confuse you, but I'm going to give two references, and they're written on the board there, but I didn't want to do a board educational video. I don't know, it just didn't feel like it. The first book, this is a great book. I haven't finished reading it yet, but Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston A. Price. I'll just give you a run through of the book. He was a dentist. This is published in the 1940s. It's a 10-year study of native cultures around the world and their diets, their lifestyles, and he did very specific recordings of dental health, craniofacial health, craniofacial growth and development, resistance to disease statistics in that area for native cultures, and compared them to modernized cultures. So, the tribe living on native foods, just living off the land, living basically off food that's made by nature in part two, the laws of nature, abiding by those rules, and compared them to the same like group of people, so the same racial stock, he called them, and the same stock that was living on modernized foods. And he noticed some pretty interesting things, and he did 14, I think, cultures across the world, you know, from Alaskans, Aboriginals, Africans, Quechua Indians, not Quechua Indians, Native American Indians, uh, people in Hawaii, you know, Polynesians, all of them. And I'm just going to share. They all had the same resistance to disease, but they all had very different diets, and that's the key thing. And of course, they were eating organic, unrefined, minimally processed foods. Their stress levels were low, and they didn't, you know, have any psychological stress like we do today. But anyway, I'm just going to give a couple photo references from this book here. Here we got the modernized and Native American Indians right here. As you can see, just here, we got these group of people. These are natives living on the native foods, and as you can see there, their teeth are pretty good. And what you want to look for is the wide face. You want broad, open nose. You know, so that they can breathe easier. Craniofacial development. And then this is the same group, so this is Native American Indians on native foods, and then over here we got Native Americans on modernized foods, what he called the white man's food of commerce. And as you can see here, their teeth are pretty messed up. They got a narrow face, and they had dental caries like crazy. So that was the Native American Indians, and they were eating like 70%, I think, something like that, fat and protein from animals. So, and these people, resistance to disease, resistance to dental caries, excellent health, excellent physical stature, and they were eating animal products. There's no incidences of cancer. I'm going to do a text reference. Okay. This is on page 69. When I asked the old Indian through an interpreter why the Indians did not get scurvy, he replied promptly that that was a white man's disease, etc., etc. I asked whether it was possible for the Indians to get scurvy. He replied that it was, but said that the Indians know how to prevent it. And how they prevented it was, whenever they caught a moose, like they would hunt and kill a moose, they would cut the back open, rip its ribs off, and by the kidneys there were the adrenal glands. Hold up, let me find this. Yeah, the adrenal glands. And what they would do is they would cut up the adrenal glands and feed them to the people, and that prevented them from getting scurvy, because scurvy is a disease where you don't get enough vitamin C, because humans can't synthesize vitamin C. We need it from self-produce it, so we need it from our diet. And it turns out that the adrenal glands are the highest concentration of vitamin C of all animal and plant tissues. So, you know, just maybe it's not exactly animal foods that are doing it, you know. I mean, obviously that's one anecdotal evidence, but I think it's shit meat, fed grains, fed plastic, sewage, sawdust, dead animal remains, locked up, and especially too much animal flesh. And we'll get back into that in the second resource that I'll talk about. Continuing on. Why don't we have a look at the Alaskans, shall we? Oh yeah, the Alaskans were living on 90% fat and protein from animal products, and they didn't have any of these problems at all. And then you go all the way to the other end. You've got the Polynesians, who ate mostly fruit and vegetables because that's what's available to them there. Okay, and then if you would go to Australia for the Aboriginals, depending on where they are, if they're an inland Aboriginal, there's not as much wild game there, so they had to eat predominantly plant foods, And then you go to the more coastal Aboriginals, because they had more access to fish and wild game like kangaroo, they ate more animal foods along with plant foods. And he actually says in here that he was trying to find, I think it was in the Polynesians, he was trying to find Polynesians that were vegetarians, because he thought, okay, maybe they can do it. But they all supplemented with fish or pig or crab, seafood. They all supplemented with, and they all showed exceptional health, exceptional craniofacial development. And this is another interesting one for the North American Indians. Right here, if you look, this bottom skull here is the skull of a modern Indian, like a modern Native American Indian. Notice how thin it is. And this is pre-Columbian skull right here. So a skull from a pre-Columbian Indian. Notice how it's much thicker. And they were eating animal foods, and they produced thicker bones, stronger bones, better resistance to disease, and they were eating animal foods. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to eat animal foods or the same amounts. We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay? So basically, what do you know? It depends where the different regions of the world had different diets depending on what was available to them. Whoa! Fucking crazy, right? You mean that I might be an individual and have individual needs? Wow, what a fascinating concept. What a fascinating concept. Okay. Sorry, this shit just irritates me, and I've lost my train of thought. But now that that's out of the way, let's go to the second point, which is written on the whiteboard here, metabolic typing. That was basically a guy named William Walcott. I'll put the link in below to the webinar that I watched to learn this stuff. Basically, he took the concepts from this book, and this book, by the way, you can get on Amazon for like $24, or you can get it for get a free audio, just torrent it. I mean, yeah, I've got it on audio. I think, pretty sure I torrented it. I've listened to some of it. Yeah, basically, Bill Walcott, he's got a book called The Metabolic Typing Diet. I haven't read it yet, but he took that and he went in, he's a biochemist. He did 30 years of study into the biochemistry of it, and he realized that there is no such thing as one diet for everyone. That's just a dogma led by emotionally driven, namely vegans, who are trying to project their insecurities onto other people. But anyway, essentially he talks about how you can eat the best organic food in the world, but if you're eating the wrong ratios, your biochemistry will be off. And he shows you how there's different types of metabolisms. You got the autonomic dominant, you got parasympathetic, sympathetic dominant, you got fast oxidizers, slow oxidizers, and essentially you give the same nutrient to someone, they'll have a different response. So you give one person a high protein meal, they'll have an acidic response, but if you give another person a high protein meal, they can have an alkaline response. And most people just say, oh, protein and meat, it causes acidity. Not necessarily. Okay, it depends what person is eating it. And one person, we all need the same nutrients. So everyone needs potassium and calcium, but each of us need different doses. So one person can have a high dose of calcium and get an acidic or an alkaline response. So essentially everyone's an individual and every diet's right. When I said they're all right, I mean, it depends who you are. Your heritage, that plays a big role. Obviously we're all crossbred now, but if you're a Polynesian, you'll want to eat mostly fruits and vegetables, maybe some fish. Look into it yourself. Look at the webinar below. You can get, I'm using it as a stand right now, but Paul Chek's book. I'm wearing Czech Institute shirt. Shout out to them. How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy. He has a test in there that's really simple. And essentially just test it out. I mean, they're all tools in a toolbox. I'm on a vegan cleanse right now, just coming to the end of it for 2 weeks. And I'm noticing some very beneficial effects. So they're all tools in a toolbox. I don't think the vegan diet's bad. I don't think the ketogenic diet is bad. Essentially, they're all tools in a toolbox for you to use at different times in your life, depending on what you need. Like I did the vegan cleanse because I felt like my body needed a cleaning effect. But even during this 2 weeks, I feel like something's missing because I've always done better with high fat. Over the years, I've over the last 3 years, I've tried out different diets. You know, I tried the high protein, high carb, moderate fat. That worked for a little while. Then I upped my fats, dropped my protein a little bit. So I was doing a sort of moderate protein, moderate fat, high carb. And now, after a while, I started to feel really fatigued and got puffy and was holding on to a lot of water. So I dropped the carbs way low. So I was doing low carb, moderate protein, high fat. That worked for a long time, but that was when I was training pretty hard. But then towards the end of the year, it's January now to early December, I was starting to feel too fatigued for the gym. So I actually took a month off, which is why I didn't do the videos, took a month off and everything. And I just kept eating high fat, high protein. So I felt like I wasn't eating to suit my needs because I wasn't working out. So this vegan cleanse is giving me a good cleaning effect, and I might keep doing it. Might transition to vegetarianism, or keep doing veganism until, you know, I get the blood work done, get a nice cleaning effect on my body, and then maybe once my training gets more intense in the gym, because I want to do rugby this year, I might up the fat and protein and introduce more animal foods back in. Just depends what I need, how I feel. Learn to get in touch with your body, and that's basically the take home message from me here. Learn to get in touch with your body, and yep, that's it to conclude this. Buy this book, read it, skip all the diet books, read this, watch the webinar that I'll put down below, get Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy, if you want a specific plan for everything health related. Like the video if you liked it, comment any questions or thoughts, subscribe if you haven't for more. There'll be more good stuff coming. See you next time.